Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 148, and it's about why I chose to reclaim the word audacity and what I think it means. I've been thinking about this today because I put up a carousel on the Grammygrams about the fact that I have no talent, not in the way that we use that word. And I always bristled during my performing career, particularly when I was performing Ariel, when someone would say, "Oh, you're so talented." I knew that that was meant as a compliment, but I just wanted to argue with them. Like, no, I'm not. I'm hardworking. I'm stubborn. And I never said any of this, of course, to anyone, except for my friend Luke Haynes, who had come into the Pink Door to see me perform. We both lived in Seattle at the time, and he would come every Monday night. And he would watch the show, and then we'd sit and have dinner afterwards. And it was a lovely time in my life. And after my last set, one night, he's like, "You're so talented." And Luke is an artist as well. He's a quilt artist. I'll link him in the show notes. I've spoken about him before. So I knew that he would understand me. And I just looked back at him and said, "No, I'm not." And he thought for a second and said, "You're so hardworking." And I'm like, "Thank you." So the way that we tend to use talent in terms of physical performance is physical aptitude. And I knew that I didn't have it because I had a room full of people to show me what it actually looked like. People who were training contortion and could get to triple fold within their first year of studies. That's a real physical aptitude. That's a physical talent. And it's absolutely worthless without the training that they were also giving to themselves. And I saw a physical aptitude for building strength and building muscle to degrees that seemed impossible. And I was in awe of all of them. I had a lot of examples of physical talent around me, enough to know that whatever I had, not to, poo-poo it, but it wasn't that. And it was several years into my career that I realized the talent that I did have wasn't physical, it was emotional. And my emotional talent was audacity. It's not that I thought I was good, because I knew that I wasn't. Not at the beginning anyway, but I did know that my life had value and that no one was ever going to make it happen for me. And I didn't approach pursuing opportunities with this kind of entitled snobbery or an expectation that I deserved to get what I wanted. It was more like pursuing something with the joyful abandon of the fool. Oh, there's the air conditioning kicking on. As my friend Eve Diamond has been quoted, or I've quoted her as saying, I was first to raise my hand to be on the idiot ride. Like, oh, yes, let's do that. And I realized that this was a talent of mine, again, because of the lauded company that I was in the Circus Center of San Francisco when I was in my early training years. This is 2007, 2008. Right? Surrounded by legends and people destined to become legends. And the thing I noticed was that despite the fact that 95% of them were incredibly skilled, far more skilled than I was, they were eaten up with self-doubt and self-loathing. And there I was, untalented, not skilled, not strong, not flexible, but just waltzing along. You can go ahead and picture the image on the first card of the major arcana, which is the Fool. And the Fool is depicted as a youth with a hobo stick on their back and a dog bounding by their side. They're like almost cheerfully walking way too close to the edge of a cliff. And this is a sacred archetype to me, because the fool does not lack wisdom. The fool is not stupid, but the fool has a really good idea of their own internal compass and the conviction to follow it. Another thing that I noticed was that no matter how eaten up someone was in a sense of their own self-doubt, they still had that conviction, and sometimes it just needed to be nurtured, and I mean just the smallest amount. Like, I could see, and did experience this, that a short conversation, not even with me, just with someone who cared about them in a loving direction, put them back in touch with their own sense of audacity. And it was so easy, with just a little nourishment, for them to find it again. And that's where I want to make a kind of a clear distinction here, because the word audacity is typically colloquially used in the negative, and we all know examples of audacity being used in ways that are quite shitty, are harmful. The current administration comes to mind. Fuck Donald Trump. And that kind of audacity is led forth by a sense of entitlement, as well as, and this is important, the shadow side of audacity is when it is pursued without care for harm. Let's take the most basic example from my experience in the Audacity Project. An artist who chooses to pursue their aerial career is not harming anyone. You could argue with me about that, but you can't really, because this is a one-way form of communication. A quote-unquote leader ignoring the Constitution is harmful. It harms a lot of people. An artist who chooses to pursue their creative practice with intention is not harmful. Sure, they might hurt someone's feelings along the way. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, we can be okay with, if we get our feelings hurt, if we hurt someone else's feelings, we'll be all right. But I did want to make that distinction. Like, if someone can possess their own audacity and their conviction in their inner compass, having lived experience of any kind of marginalization, that's the good kind of audacity. I don't know for sure why I've always had easier access to my own sense of audacity. I think it's my whimsical nature. I was raised on a steady diet of fantasy and fairy tales. And while I can easily differentiate between fantasy and reality, the thing that that whimsical upbringing gave me was a strong connection to my own imagination and the absolute conviction that life could be sparkly. And this is like a 12-year-old's understanding of life, but it has served me well. And that is what I endeavor to bring out in the people that I work with through the Audacity Project. So it's not the audacity to cause harm, irregardless of the effects on other people. It is the audacity of believing that your life has value. That's the good stuff. That's where the magic happens. When people can be so in love with their inner compass and so sure of the goodness of their intention. And it's not that they don't feel afraid of being cringe or of being too much or of looking like an idiot, but if any of those things happen, they can deal with it. And there's this beautiful part of learning any kind of creative discipline that's kind of near the beginning. It doesn't mean that you're young. It means that it can happen quite naturally towards the beginning of a journey with a creative discipline. And that's the audacity of the new artist, where you don't know enough to know all of the hardships that likely or possibly lurk around every corner. You know they're probably there, but you don't have intimate knowledge of them. But what you do have an intimate knowledge of is your absolute love and obsession and devotion to this practice. And if you can take that place in a person's development and combine it with action, amazing shit happens. It doesn't mean they're suddenly, super highly skilled at what they're doing, but it means by the time they are highly skilled, they will already have been working. They will have already been experimenting and failing and teaching, probably too soon. And the magic of all of these things is that it builds an environment for that artist to live in. They build the garden around themselves, not because they think they're so awesome, but because the price of not doing it is far too dear. And that is who I love to work with. People who are either already in that space naturally, or people who are ready to access that space with a little nourishing. Another side effect of this kind of audacity that cannot be ignored, it's more than the environment that the artist has grown around themselves, it's the community. That's the environment that I'm really talking about. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again, the most valuable resource that any artist has is a supportive community. And you can't build a supportive community if you can't be perceived. People got to know you exist if they're going to work with you or if they're going to befriend you. It is a major valuable asset, and side effect of Audacity is that community results from it. And when you have community, you have a career, and don't make the mistake of thinking that you don't. Absolutely no one succeeds in a vacuum. No one lives in a vacuum. No one survives a vacuum. And having the audacity to believe that your life has value and to hold your inner compass with conviction has an effect. It may not be obvious. It may not be loud, but it has an effect, and those ripples can be far-reaching. Like, how many times have you been surprised by a DM from a stranger who said, this thing that I saw you do, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, impacted me? Like, really? I kind of forgot that I did that. It's all important. It all matters. Even, and I'll go ahead and say especially, the failures. I've been asked many times what I meant by the word audacity, so I just thought I would take this opportunity, make a whole episode about it. Clearly, I feel very strongly about it. I truly believe that there is magic in it. Audacity plus action equals magic. Now, that said, the waitlist for the next cycle of the Audacity Project, that's cycle 29, the waitlist is closing on Sunday. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's right there at the bottom of the show notes. And the waitlist, in addition to just getting early access, you get $100 off the price of tuition. And there's freebies and bonuses and, fun shit. So the Audacity Project is opening to the waitlist only on Monday, September 1st. So if you want to hop on the waitlist and get in there and do that, I would do it sooner rather than later, because I'll be closing that waitlist on Sunday. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Audacity. There are 2 remaining cycles of the Audacity Project. So cycle 30 will be the last one that I run as it is now in its current incarnation. After that, I'll create a DIY version of the project, because it's really good information. We've been doing this a long time. I want to make sure it's available as a resource. So if you have been wanting to participate, see what all the fuss, is there fuss? I don't know. I make a fuss. If you want to see what all the fuss that I make is about, then you have 2 more opportunities to do that in its current incarnation. I've already opened up slots for booking consult calls if you want to have a chat and make sure it's going to be the right fit for you. You can do that as soon as tomorrow, because there are slots open on Thursday, the 28th. And of course, the only way to get that slot is to be on the wait list. So that's really what I came here to say at the end. Thank you so much for listening. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, and the reason for that is that life is lifey today, and I got to go do some shit. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk about Audacity, and if you have requests for future episodes, you can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, so I got to give a shout out to my patrons for making this possible, and indeed the creature that I am, possible to walk the earth. Thank you for standing with me. Thank you for trusting me. Until next time, my friends, may the audacity be with you, and don't go back to sleep.